hanging out actually outside or inside the Profit Bar over here in Dallas. So, man, thanks for taking some time.
Yeah.
You guys just recently had a new record that came out, Major Minor.
Yes.
Tell me about the response that you guys have gotten so far from the fans and the critics. And as an artist, you know that's been doing music as long as you have, do you really pay attention to what the critics say, or is it?
I think if it's good, it's always nice. The response to this record has been really, really, really great. But it's not something that we think about while we're making the record. It's just, it's going to get inside your head and mess with that process. So that's something that we intentionally did for a long time, trying to, don't think about that. And for a while now, it's just been like, it's not even a thought in the back of our heads. We just make what we're going to make. And once it's out, it's cool to see if people are getting where you're coming from with it. And sometimes that takes a little time. Sometimes it's pretty instant. This time it was really instant. Everyone was really digging on the tracks, critics and fans alike. So it's awesome.
So when you guys came into the studio to record this album, this isn't, you guys have been making music for a while now. So what did you guys want to do different with Major Minor as opposed to Beggars or some of the previous work?
I feel like the transition between Beggars and Major Minor is one of the smoothest that we've had. We tend to kind of just push into different territory and challenge ourselves, and I think we had a lot of fun making Beggars. It was really raw. We kind of just got in the studio together and played, and we're really trying to play what felt good to play, even physically, just that it moved a certain way. And so we took a lot of that and brought it over to Major Minor, but just kind of turned the volume up on a lot of it, and it's a much more aggressive sounding record, and in a couple different ways, both in how the songs are made and also how it's recorded, a little more in your face. And,
I know this was more of like a collaborative effort, right? Where like some of the different band members wrote some pieces, and then you guys came together in the studio and kind of worked them out.
That's usually how we do it. We kind of share ideas in like just demo files or whatever, and then we come together, listen to all the ideas. I mean, they're really rough, usually just a little melody or something, and everyone will kind of pick up on different things going on in everyone else's parts, and that starts a kind of a collaborative process of building it. And then a lot of that's done in the past two records, more just jamming it out in the studio.
So tell me a little bit about some of these songs then. What I'd like to do is just kind of go through like some of them, and you can kind of give me some of your ideas and your thoughts behind. Maybe there's a memorable moment, maybe there was something special that happened in the studio, or maybe there's a personal story from the lyrics that you have for this, for this particular song.
Mm-hmm.
So Yellowbelly, why did it make the first song? Because you guys released that earlier too as a free download.
Yeah, just that riff that comes in there is kind of big and dirty and ominous sounding. I think it's hooky in a different way than maybe a normal hook would be, but it definitely catches you, and so we thought it would be kind of a good foot to lead with, both in a pre-release track and on the record, just setting a kind of a tone for the record. It's there's a fair amount of darkness that's wrestled with there. So.
And then Promises, which is the first single that some radio stations are playing. We're playing it, and I know the lyrics talk a lot about the value of our words, specifically pertaining to marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some insight into that.
I mean, I think it's no secret that marriage is a pretty broken institute in I think in our world, especially in our culture. It's valued as something that people look forward to doing. It's just like the natural step when they've been in a relationship for a while, and but there's all these kind of wrong ideas put onto it, and those ideas cause it to fail pretty brutally. And basically that's, if I get married, it's going to fix all these problems. It's going to make all these things better, and really it's just going to magnify those things. It's going to make it harder. And the point of that love, like marriage, is originally set up as a kind of a covenant love, that it's, and we say this in our vows, love you death till we part, for better or worse, richer or poorer. That's a covenant language that's saying, I choose to continue loving you, actively loving you, verb love you, not feeling love you, through all those stuff, and that reciprocal love like continues to rebuild those feelings as well, which will not last if they're relied upon. So the song is kind of just lamenting the state that it's in right now, kind of a counterpiece to a song on Beggars called The Weight, which is more of the positive end of that. But
so I know, you were kind of talking in like more of like, I guess you would say like an agape love, where, people are going to be, loved regardless, kind of similar to how like Christ loves people and the reciprocal of that and stuff. But I mean, what do you think if you had to look back on a perspective and just say, if you could say one, and this is kind of a big question, but like, one reason maybe why people don't take marriage as, as that covenant as seriously as what, maybe our parents did or our parents' parents, because it seems like more in society, like you said, divorce is more rampant and stuff. And
well, I think what's actually interesting is a lot of that would be more religion than gospel. Why it was different before, in a lot of, not in all cases, but a lot of cases, it was just like you just don't do that. You just don't get divorced. That's, it's not right. And there's a truth to that, but the deeper truth, I think, if you would call yourself a Christian, is that you love out of the gospel, out of what Christ has done for you, that enables you to love that same way, rather than white-knuckling it through something just because you're told to.
I gotcha. And then Blinded?
Blinded, kind of talking about self-righteousness, kind of a reformed Pharisee, kind of looking back at also talking about kind of religion and gospel stuff. The chorus uses a line that Tim Keller has popularized slightly, but I don't think he originally came up with it. I mean, it's not a super original statement, but this idea that we are worse than we ever feared to believe, but we are more loved than we ever dared to believe. So this idea that we kind of try to sit in the middle ground. I'm doing okay. I'm a pretty good person, and he'd say, no, you're actually not. In contrast to who God is and what He's done for you, like you're an awful sinner.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that God loves you so much that He sent Christ to die for you. So it's kind of ripping that false middle ground apart, and that contrast is beautiful, I think.
It kind of reminds me too of like At the Last with, like off Beggars, there's that one part where you say, here I was, I thought I was a good person, but really I'm not, like I've squandered each and every breath. Would you say there's some similarities between, At the Last lyrically and kind of this idea in this new song?
Yeah, there's an idea of looking back. At the Last is probably more specifically dealing with like end of life looking back, which is pretty tragic. But yeah, there's some similar reflective things going on there.
And then, tell me a little bit about Cataracts.
Cataracts.
Or maybe something specifically like when you guys were in the studio recording this, because I know you guys did a lot of stuff in the Red Bull studios.
Yeah, we did most of it there. We just kind of finished up a couple of things at our home place or at Dave Schiffman's house. But Cataracts was one of the songs there's a couple songs that started when I was on vacation. I think there's been a couple cool songs the past two records that have started when I've been gone. Just when there's three people, like a three-piece band is way easier to manage. It's just less going on with people, less going on with instruments, and so there's some cool jamming that kind of went on. So I think Yellowbelly came out of one of those, and Cataracts did. It was called Weird Jam, just because that bass line's really weird. And so it's a great song. It's got just a great kind of push-pull of like my guitar like dropping in, dropping out. Just good groove to it. I don't know. I don't have any specific stories. I'm awful at recalling anything.
Yeah. Well, tell me then a little bit about your writing style, because I know that's one thing that people have always, when they think of Dustin, they think of a really good songwriter that's really poetic lyrics. And I mean, is this a process that you're constantly always writing with? You keep a journal with you, and you may have an idea and then start from there, or how does it?
Yeah, with Thrice stuff, I tend not to have a lot of the ideas beforehand. Something that I try to do past couple records is really let the song dictate somewhat where the lyrics go. That the idea that the song is telling a story already. It's a very vague and nondescript story, but there's still a storyline to it. It moves a certain way, it has a certain feel. It starts one way, it ends another way. And so I try to find something that really fits with that so that they're telling the same story in a sense. And so it's a cool way actually to draw inspiration too from what you're already doing. To be like, what does this feel like? This song's, for Yellowbelly, this song's angry. It's really angry feeling. What do I want to write about that will fit rightly with that anger?
So would another good example maybe be off of Beggars, like In Exile? Because whenever I hear that song, I think of like a journey, because it has that rhythm that's constantly, traveling, it almost seems like.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the genesis of the lyrics were for that.
It says like
No, I know that what the lyrics. I'm just saying where
okay.
they came from. I don't know. A lot of times I feel like my songs will start with like a phrase and kind of just expand off that. I know that line. No, actually, I don't know where it came. Songs of Forever. For some reason, that came into my head. I think, and I was like, "That's not even proper English," but it conveys something really cool. And I think the only other thing I could find online that it was called that was some piece of classical music from a while back. But yeah, I don't know.
So kind of moving back into the new album, Major Minor. We're halfway through the record, and you got Call It in the Air. And when you guys write music, and you at the very end, and you put together the final product, you think of songs and how they fit into the progression of the record, or is it mainly just we feel like let's just put this one there, this one here?
When we're ordering it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And big things are opener, closer. First couple you want to have a certain flow to them usually, and then you try to move things to where it makes sense how they're kind of flowing into each other. It's not a perfect science. It's definitely, it could be a million different ways. I don't know, really a ton of different ways. But yeah, I like the order on this. I especially like ending with Disarmed. I feel like it's kind of a cool wrap to a lot of the stuff that's talked about on the record. A very hopeful close.
Would you say, and I don't know if you've talked about this before in other interviews, but when you have Major Minor, and I think actually you did do something about this, but you said oftentimes you look back on the record after it's been a while, and even though there wasn't a major theme throughout the record, after it's been out for a bit, it's kind of sat there, and you've listened to it, and you've reflected upon it, you can see a theme that was going on. Has there been enough time for that with Major Minor, or are you still kind of, would you say there's a major theme in this record?
I don't think so. It seems like there's a lot of different things going on, which is, I guess, somewhat plays with the record title, just that there's, in life, like, simultaneously, there's these really awful things and really amazing things going on, that we live in a world where those things coexist, and which I think is actually one of the larger things to look at when you're trying to build a worldview. Like, what makes sense of this strange world that we live in?
Yeah.
That there is real awful, evil things, and there's real beauty and goodness. So I think you have to have a good answer for that, for whatever you believe at the core of what is the world, what is everything. So I think that plays into this. There's songs that are, Blur is really dark. It's just kind of being honest about feeling totally disoriented in a moment of a lot of sorrow, a lot of anxiety about things going on. I guess similar to certain psalms, just really really disoriented and calling out, and then there's also songs like Disarmed or Anthology, a lot more hopeful, a lot more up.
Yeah.
So
I know recently too, you guys did it like a poll on your website that was kind of more of like, now that the record's out and you've had a chance, which one are your favorites, asking your fans, and Words in the Water got, I think, the overwhelming majority of the vote. Were you surprised when you saw that, or have you seen it?
We started seeing a lot. I mean, even not just on that poll, just a lot of feedback for that song, which is cool. That was a really hard one to write. We went through probably 6 or 7 totally different versions of that song, which didn't happen for any of these other songs. They were kind of built and refined, and that one was just like tear it down, build it up, tear it down, build it up. And it was the last song I finished lyrically, and it's probably my favorite on the record. Yeah, it's one of those. I finished it, and I was like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is good. It's definitely a different vibe than the rest. I try to push myself to tell more. I like telling stories in songs, but my brain is very analytical, so it rears towards essay more than story, and so that song is very story, but I feel like it's very powerful for that reason. Yeah.
And so, looking back, actually, let's do this. I got some questions from our listeners that they wanted to ask you. And Chase said, I felt that Disarmed makes for such a perfect conclusion and capstone to the album. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, but he said, at what point does the track list for albums come together, and how early did you know that Disarmed would be the closer and Yellowbelly would be the opener, and then Treading Paper would be the centerpiece?
I don't think we really look at centerpieces too much. Try to just look at a larger flow, but Disarmed for me with the ending just felt like a good closer. I added the woes like at the very end. No one was really sure if that was going to work. I like it a lot. I think the way it got mixed made it sit really nicely in the track, but it just feels very final and like a conclusion.
So as a songwriter, are you ever really finished with a song? Because I've heard that sometimes it's like a song's never finished, it's just put on the album.
Yeah, there's definitely a truth to that. A lot of it's unconscious. If you play a song enough, it just changes. You don't really realize it, and you'll listen back later and like, oh, I don't play that at all anymore. Yeah. Usually it's better as the longer you've been with it. Sometimes you'll find some little thing, I totally forgot that was in there, and you'll put it back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're very fluid. I think a lot of people have a hard time letting it go, putting it on the record. A lot of bands have been putting out just multiple EPs in a row, and I like EPs as a format, but I feel like a lot of it's due to a hesitancy to commit to being like, this is a statement of who we are right now. And that's a hard thing to do, but it's also, I feel like those are milestones in how people see a band. And so if you're never putting down like, this is who we are right now, you're never really defining your band as much, at least in how people perceive these different formats of music.
So speaking about EPs, would you guys ever consider maybe putting out like an acoustic EP with some of your recent work? Because I know that was another question we got a lot of people asking.
Well, we put bonus tracks on different releases of the record, and we've been doing a bunch of acoustic performances, so I feel like those are kind of cool. They're live, and there's a cool one we did with Guitar Center recently that actually sounds really good, and me and Tepe playing. I think we'll just continue to do more like that. I don't think we'll actually release something.
Cool. And then the last question we had from Nate, he said he wants to know what goes through your head when you see huge crowds of people singing every word for every song with you.
When my head is not screwed up, like thinking about other stuff, it's really good. Usually I'm actually pretty good at not getting kind of derailed, and I'm able to just have a good time playing. The first night of this tour was really rough for me. I don't know why, just a couple things where if you get off track, sometimes like your head just is tweaked, and it's really hard to get it back. But that's one of the best things. I did an acoustic performance for Invisible Children. We've been doing a couple after the shows, and there's a ton of people out there, 150, 200 people, and I played Disarmed, which was, we don't play live right now, and had everyone doing the woes in the end. It was pretty awesome.
That is cool.
Good moment.
Yeah, well, Dustin, man, I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us. We'll set up here in a second. You can perform Promises acoustic. Cool. Yeah. And anything in closing that you want to talk about, maybe about the new record? I felt like we covered a lot of it. I know the people that you worked with recording this album is, you know, you guys have been together in the past and worked together, you know, as far as engineers and stuff. So, I mean, was it a lot easier the second time around?
It was a different setup. Dave Shipman engineered Visu, but that was like the most complicated record we made, probably, in terms of a lot of people working on it. You had a producer, engineer, there was a drum tech there was just kind of a lot of things going on, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So this was a lot more stripped down. Dave came in pretty near the end of the writing process, and we were most interested in him just being there to get what we were doing and to capture it well. And I think he did a great job of it. So it was really smooth. He was actually great to work with too, vocally. I've gotten used to working with Tepe and felt a lot of freedom and comfort in that. And Dave was actually really great. He knows when to say something and when to just not
let it go.
So when to say that was really good, do that again, or maybe try something else. But
cool,
it's great.
Awesome. Well, Major Minor is out in stores right now. You can pick it up. You can check out thrice.net is the website, and you can see everything there. And Dustin, man, thank you.
Thank you.